Breaking Diversity Barriers in Law Firms with Noemi Puntier, episode 310. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and I am super excited for what we have on the slate for today because there's something that goes on. Let me be real and honest with you guys. I'm going to share a little story, and that little story will help put into perspective where I'm going to hopefully go with the conversation today. So I was preparing for our last Law Firm Growth Summit back in December of 2020, and we're running Facebook ads, and we had gotten keynote speakers for the event. And we have this ad running with the 3 keynote speakers on it. And it was Mike Michalowicz, Kevin Harrington, and David Nagel. Now, all of a sudden, I start getting the hate mail. Why you have 3 white men as your keynote speakers for your event? And it never, although I am very aware of the equality issues, and being able to give women a platform, being able to give minorities a platform. These are the keynote speakers that we happen to get for this event. And it never occurred to me that it's not diverse and it's just men. They all are very talented and were very well in their right to be keynote speakers, but it was portraying a brand and an image that I didn't want to get behind. And I decided that in that moment that we were going to be much more conscious here at Profit with Law, with everything that we do, to at least pave the way for possibility for us to have that diversity at every level of talent that we are constantly recruiting here on the podcast, at the Law Firm Growth Summit, and the various things that we do. And that's why I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have today, because our guest today is into female empowerment, is into giving people who don't have as much opportunity as the rest of us a fair shake at being able to access their best version of themselves in society today. So hopefully we're going to go there with the conversation. I don't know, because this intro is being recorded live, but hopefully that is where we're going to be headed. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. Our guest today is Noemi Puntier, and she's the founder and principal attorney at Puntier Law Firm. And she's a community-based firm representing immigrants and immigration and personal injury matters. In every aspect of her work, Noemi aims for excellence, integrity, and transparency. She hosts a radio and Facebook show called Cafe. I didn't ask you how this is pronounced. Cafe con Leas?
You got it.
Funny thing, I'm going to detour here for a second. So I don't know Spanish at all, like zip zilch nada, right? And my wife took like 6 years of Spanish in school, or 8 years, I forget how many, a lot of years of Spanish in school, but she struggles with basic Spanish communication in day-to-day activities. But then we go to Mexico and we're on vacation, and she gets a little liquored up, and all of a sudden she's conversing fluently with the cab driver. And I tell her, I said, look, you when you're drunk, that's when you know Spanish. It's pretty amazing. You got to stop thinking about it so much and just let it out. Yeah. Anyway, so a Facebook show called Cafe con Leas to educate listeners on the latest legal issues. While Noemi enjoys serving as an advocate and an attorney on a daily basis, her true passion lies in reaching underserved young women. She's part of the hashtag Heels in the courtroom. Heels in the courtroom. You know, I've actually heard about that. I want to hear more about that. Anyway, heels, hashtag Heels in the Courtroom movement, where she combines faith, law, and entrepreneurship to encourage and uplift female attorneys. Noemi also founded Girl Lawyer on a mission to provide a platform and support system for young women aspiring to enter the legal field. Noemi, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here, and I love the introduction.
Thank you. We got to listen, we got to draw them in, right? We got to get people excited and involved in the conversation. So Noemi, what I do with every interviewee here on the podcast when we start is I'm going to throw you a nice, easy pitch right over the plate. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, how you got to where you are. Give us a little bit of a flavor of who you are and where you come from.
Wow. Okay. I'll try to make it short, but basically I'm an immigrant, right? I come from the Dominican Republic, and at the age of 8, turned 9 and came to the Bronx, New York, the Boogie Down Bronx. So as you can imagine, it was extremely humble beginnings growing up in the ghetto. But I think that gave me the tenacity and the drive and the desire to just aim for more, because as immigrants, you sort of always want to pay it forward to the United States, because it's the country that's giving you everything you ever wish for. And your parents always tell you, work hard, work hard. And I recognize that working hard sometimes is not sufficient, right? You need to have the tenacity, you need to have the drive, and you need to have the character also as you grow up and start thinking, what are your dreams? So I have a heart for serving. I think my love language is just serving other people, making them feel good, solving problems. And I recognize that that's where I wanted my career to start. So I started as a social worker in Harlem, New York. That was very interesting before it was gentrified. And that sparked an interest in my heart to do more, to get a platform where I can have a bigger impact in our community. Because when we think of the world, you know, we complain a lot, but we forget that we also have the power and the ability to make a difference and to make a change. And it can start in, it could be very small. It could just be the way you treat someone, you know, the helping hand that you provide. So that opened up that desire to do more. And that's when I decided to become a lawyer. But I knew no lawyer, right? So how are you as an immigrant woman, you know, minority, you know, not wealthy, sort of get into this area of law? And I was blessed enough to meet someone that introduced me to a judge. And then I started my internship, and eventually I got into law school. And that was the beginning of what I'm doing now. I love what I do. I serve immigrants. I take a holistic approach. And I love utilizing my faith and my desire to elevate women in the legal industry. And I hope that there's more to come in the future. And I appreciate people like yourself that are giving us a platform to be a voice and a demonstration of, you know, of what's out there, that we could all be inclusive and still be great.
Thank you, Noemi. That was great. One gap that I have is why an attorney? So social worker to attorney. What made you to settle on the legal field as the place where you can bring the most value? Because I'm a person of heart too, right? And I love serving people. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know this about me, but I serve here in the community as a paramedic.
Wow,
and
amazing.
Yeah, and so I do like all kinds of things. Like even in my previous, like my first career, I was in IT, but it was all about helping people get their computers running and their servers back online when they went down and things like that. And now what I do here with lawyers is all about helping people grow into the best version of themselves and get their firm to a place where it's not only profitable, but it's changing their life and their ability to navigate life, and also changing future generations. So everything that I do is from a place of service. So I really resonate with the desire, but there's so many different ways to serve. So right. I'm just curious if there was something specific that drove you to choose to be a lawyer as opposed to maybe continuing as a social worker or other avenues.
Yes, there were two things. Number one is the fact that I had hit a ceiling in my career. This was during the Giuliani era in the Bronx, where there was a new program where he wanted moms that were on welfare to go back into the work field. So we had a lot of moms that were taking care of their children for 10 years or so that now were being forced to go back into the work field, and they didn't have any experience, they didn't have any tools to go out there and promote themselves. And that was my responsibility. My responsibility was to equip them, to train them, and also to go out in the community and utilize my reputation, right? To say, hey, you should give Maria a chance, even though she hasn't worked in 10 years, she's going to be great because I'm saying she's great. And that was very successful. But then I got to a point that I said, but I want to do more, right? If I want to be an advocate, if I want to change laws, if I want to change programs like these and have an impact in the way that they're formed, in the way that they're shaped and thought of, you need to be in the table. You need to be part of the discussion. And I think as an immigrant, you know, your parents always say you either become a doctor or you become a lawyer, right? So there's this thought process that being a lawyer is being powerful and having a seat at the table. And that's why I chose to go to law, because I saw it as a way to open up that avenue where I can be an advocate, but I can also either, you know, whether I want to have a stronger voice in politics or be more educated or have a conversation with leaders that will be making decisions that will impact my community directly, and just be a voice and a wealth of knowledge in that regard, if I got the opportunity to sit at the table.
Yeah, I love that. And does that mean that politics is on the horizon for you? I mean,
actually,
you get to write law as a legislator, right? So
I did run for state senate, did not win. And I think it was just part of my calling. I don't know if I was necessarily supposed to win. I know I was definitely supposed to run. And I think it's hard when you have a good heart and you're led by your faith to get into the political arena and still stay true to yourself. Not to say that this cannot be done. I just think for me, it was wrong timing as well. And my heart is too pure for not being divided. I don't look at color. I don't look at political parties. And I think I was placed in a situation where I had to choose the political party to run with. And it was a struggle for me, because at the end of the day, I think when you're making decisions, you make decisions for what's best for humankind, not necessarily what's aligned with your political party. So I don't think it was the right timing for me. Right. I don't think the world is ready for someone to be a world changer when being so inclusive and non-judgmental. I think we're still in the midst of let's fight each other and let's see who wins at the end. So I would never say never, but I did feel called to do it, and I obeyed, and I did, and it was a great experience. Not sure I will do it again, but it's.
Yeah, I think that this is an important lesson for our listeners, because one of the things that I share with my clients all the time, and even people here on the podcast, is that your business is an experiment, right?
Yes.
Everything that we do is trial and error. We're going to try something and we're going to see if it works. And if it doesn't, we're going to learn from that. And then we're going to decide what our next step is. And
right.
People get so caught up in the fear of what if it doesn't work, that they don't actually try, and right. They don't learn from the experience, and they rob themselves of that lesson. So even though you didn't win, I'm sure that there was a ton that you learned going through that process. And now you know whether it's the right thing for you, whether you should try again, or even if you don't try again, you know how to support somebody who is going through that process, or some other way that those tools can now be valuable for you to serve in another way. So kudos to you for going for it.
Yes.
And, and I definitely think that there's going to be great opportunities for you to have the impact that you want. I would argue that the fact that you didn't get it doesn't mean that it's not the right thing for you, right? It could be that, and it also doesn't mean the world's not ready. I think that the world's never going to be ready. I think that it's going to happen when people like you start to lead us, right? Because leadership, it comes from the top. The way that people act is based on what they see. They have role models. They look at their role models, and the role models tell them how it should be. And the more that politicians are, fighting with each other on a stage, in a way that's childish and immature and hateful, the more people are going to see that and are just going to mimic that in their day-to-day actions. So I think it's going to require people like you to rise up in politics in a way that can show people there is another way. There's a peaceful way to be inclusive and to and to provide opportunity for everybody.
I think as women, we're very emotional. So, having a mentor also, I think it's important, and seeing yourself where, for me, it's always been a big thing. I want to be in the place. I want to be in the table with the woman that look like the woman I want to become, or the woman that I want to mimic. And I think it's very difficult, especially in the South, to see that, especially in the political party that I ran for. And again, it's just, it takes an attitude of trailblazing, and it takes finances, and it takes dedication, and it takes having a tough skin, honestly, because you compromise your family, your business kind of takes a back seat. But, this experience was great. And I agree with you. I think we should be taking more chances to try out new things. And if it doesn't work, then doing some reflection, like, what can we do differently? What did I learn from that? And for me, it was an identity thing. I came out as a different woman. I came out with different political views as to the way that, the political parties, if I choose to affiliate with, how does that look? And just an empowering in the sense of being a Latina woman in at a time where there's not many of us, ironically, I still walk into a courtroom and people think I'm the interpreter. Right. So there's a lot of growth that needs to be made, but it starts with one person. So out of that experience, I came back very empowered. I am a better businesswoman now. And I think you said something that's impressive to me. You talked about having a serving heart, and how, part of your mission is also this prosperity, right? That we sometimes shy away from. And I think there's a deficiency in people like myself that, say, yes, I have a good heart, I have a soft heart. And not that I'm trying to pat myself on the back, but then we have a hard time making the connection with being a good person, but also being rich and having generational wealth, because we're not taught that. So I congratulate you for mixing the two, because there is something to be taught to people that are servants, to say you can serve and still have enough money to take care of your family and create that generational wealth that sometimes doesn't exist.
And on the flip side, if you have more wealth than you know what to do with, imagine how much good you can do with it, right? How much more you can serve somebody. So money is not a bad thing. Money is a tool. Money is, and honestly, like a lot of people think, oh, if I charge more, I'm going to be alienating the people who can afford me. And the reality is that anybody who actually thinks that you will do what they need you to do will find a way to pay for it. So nobody can't afford you. They'll find a way to come up with that money. And when somebody invests more than they're comfortable investing in something, they're more likely to treat it with the respect it deserves, to show up in their best form, and to be able to get served by you in the best way possible. Which is why, like for my coaching program, right? I'm not going to sell it for $500. I sell it for $20,000, because I want the people who come and join, I want them to really want to work with me. Right. I want them to invest in the process and know I put up a lot of money for this. I want to make sure I get the value out of it. Otherwise, they're not going to participate. They're not going to put the effort in. So I think that
it's a culture thing too, to get to the mentality that you have, and a gender thing, because I can't speak for every woman, but I speak for myself. Believing what you just said, right? That I'm worth charging more. It for me has been a process, because you grow up with the mentality that I'm serving the person that's cleaning my house, right? So how can I? So there's this thought process that you have to in your head sort of come up with and say and justify that the service you're providing, it has a higher value, right? And that the person that it's retaining you needs that value and is able to afford it, because it's going to make their lives better, just like they afford to buy a brand new car, right? And
exactly. They want,
but they don't have status, and
and it's a perfect example, because when you look at somebody who buys a brand new car, probably 85% of Americans have no business buying a brand new car. Right? If you don't have $1 million net worth, you probably shouldn't be walking into a showroom and buying a new car. And if we didn't have something called loans, you probably never would, because you would have to walk in with $40,000, $50,000 into the showroom to be able to do that. And that would change the dynamic of the action of what we do. So it's a perfect example where society has created a situation where, you know, our alignment of values is off, and what we're willing to spend on is off, and just the way that something is offered to you, if it's offered differently, changes the way that you think about it. But I want to go to this conversation of diversity and inclusion, and really start to dig into this. One of the things that I find very interesting is that even as opportunities are created, even as companies are becoming more aware, and they're like trying to check boxes of certain percentage of our staff our hires are going to be Latino, and certain percentage are going to be African American, and certain percentage are going to be women, and certain percentage are going to be men. Even as those opportunities get created, and you're finding more and more females are rising up to executive level positions in Fortune 500 companies and things like that. At the same time, a lot of people who were in the camp of the underserved, or still are, right? They're not trying to get those opportunities, or they're not grabbing at the chance. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way that they were brought up in society. So what do you think is the solution to not just provide the opportunity, but to actually get them to want it, or to go for it, even though they want it, but they're afraid to go for it?
You know, I think it starts at home, and it starts with the mind. We are very quick in the ghetto, and I speak because I grew up in the ghetto, to tell someone, well, let's keep the kids busy, right? Let's get them off the streets. Let's put them to play basketball, put them in a football camp. And then we forget just the trauma that we have as minorities, some of us, not all of us. How, let's address that. Let's talk about, when we get into school, let's talk about the real issues that are going out in the world, and let's not keep it in a bubble. And let's empower each other. Let's read books that sort of have authors and, characters that look like us. Let's give our children a little bit more of confidence, because that's where it all starts. So for my daughters, they were raised very different than I was raised, right? They're raised that you're a powerhouse, you're smart, you're intelligent, you can get everything you want. I was raised like, be honest and have integrity, and all these things are great. And I'm using those same things for my children, but also stay humble, right? Don't ask for more. Don't shake the bubble. Be grateful that you're an immigrant and you're here. So when you raise your children this way, you sort of put them in this bubble that you're afraid to just tap the ceiling. And then you don't see anyone that looks like you. So unless you have this inner drive, as I did, just to do more, irrespective of economics, I just wanted to do more because I was sick and tired of where we lived, and I wanted to be that difference maker. Then it really doesn't happen. It's very rare. So my recommendation will be, it starts in the school system. It starts with the parents being educated. It starts with the church. I think sometimes the church wants to block things out and be unrealistic to what society is really suffering. And let's just call it for what it is. I mean, it's sad, but there is some division. There is some separation. We still have a belief system that we have to be intentional to change, because we grew up thinking if you go to the Asian doctor, he's going to be a better doctor because he's Asian and they study longer. They have a resistancy longer than, so already we have this caste system that based on your skin and your gender, that determines how much value I'm going to put to your profession. Same in New York, being an attorney, you went to the Jewish lawyer, that's the lawyer to go to. So we grew up,
or the Jewish accountant, right?
Or the Jewish accountant, right? So it's like, oh, do you have a Jewish lawyer? Like that was you were winning your case already. So society has created these thought processes that we have to catch ourselves and sort of be very intentional and say, what can I change? Let me go to this doctor, like my doctor's African-American, and I was very intentional about that because just like you, I want to give other people opportunity, right? But if we don't change that, if we don't say intentionally, let me change that, it's going to be really difficult. Like when I walk into a courtroom and they automatically assume I'm the interpreter, that means that person in his or her mind thinks that a Latina could not be a lawyer. And if she's a female, she must be the interpreter. Right? Irregardless of how I'm dressed, who I'm walking in the courtroom with. It's just an assumption, and it's based on the caste system that we place on the individuals, right? So if you're gay, you're this. If you're a female, you're this. If you're Latina, you're this. If you're African American, you're this. Or, we already have it in our brain. Like, we need to get that out. And how do we do that? It's going to take time and community effort and healing and just talking about it. But it starts at home, and it starts in the mind, and it starts in the heart.
I like something that you said, which is that there's we're trying to solve it by being intentional or purposeful, with how we look at things. And if you think about it, it's only going to get fixed when everything is just natural. When it's just natural that every other human being is just another human being. And there is no such thing as race, color, origin, sex, any of that, right? And it's just mind-boggling to think about. Like, we have a lot of work to do to get there, to that point where it's just because natural.
It's ingrained. It's ingrained in our brain, right? So like, perfect example, when I said, my doctor's an African American, right? If we should just have conversations that it's my doctor, right? But we always put some, but we always have to put that,
a label on it, right?
A label identifying that person, and we do this all the time.
And you intentionally chose that doctor to give him or her a fair shake, right? But also to demonstrate to your children that there's another, somebody of another skin color can be a professional, and we can respect them, and they can serve us. So we're making these subconscious decisions, but it's still all there, right? It's still processing it based on those criteria, which is very interesting. Another thing that I found, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and because I know we have a lot of different listeners that will listen to our podcast, we have to be graceful. We have to be graceful to the old generation, because my mom is guilty of certain behaviors that I see in other race. So we're all navigating this. We have to be graceful, not so much to the person that's experiencing these bad things in our community, but the person that is being blamed, right? The corporate Americas, or the white man, or the job or society. We have to be graceful as well, because it's something that has been ingrained in our system, in our community, that sometimes we may not be guilty just by who we are, but not that I'm trying to come up with an excuse, but we have to teach that person that things have changed, and we have to be graceful while we do that. So when I'm called an interpreter, I don't get upset, right? I used to. Now I'm just like, I have to remember this has been ingrained in that individual's brain. So how can I switch that, right? To make this the norm. And it takes a village. It takes all of us, not, just sort of educating also the other person on the other side of the equation.
Right. I'm curious, when that happens, if you're not getting upset, are you saying something like, why do you think that do you think that a Latino woman can't be an attorney? Or do you think that an interpreter has to be a foreign female,
Yes, the latter. Yes. So I would say, Latinas could be lawyers as well, And I say kind of joking, and sometimes, I think they catch themselves sort of like, okay, I'm sorry. But again, it's the way we're wired, right?
Right. It's almost like, how police and FBI, when they do a raid, they wear some stuff that identifies them as police or as FBI, like the jacket has FBI across the back. You need to walk into the courtroom with lawyer on your back, like
Right, because it's like, yeah, you're coming into the well. Yes, I'm an attorney.
Screw the suit. I'm wearing
and the heels.
I'm wearing just a bunch of stuff that says lawyer on it.
Lawyer. I'm a lawyer.
Love it. One of the things that's come up in other conversations around this topic, and I like to bring it up because it could be looked at both ways, in that I don't get it, or we've gone too far the other way. But in the effort to be pro minorities or pro female, we tend to create new exclusions to the people who are supposedly not being discriminated against, namely somebody like me, right? A white male, right? For example, I could try to get into a Facebook group for empowered women attorneys, and they won't let me in because I'm a guy. I'm not a girl, right? Not a lady. So what do you think about, I mean, is there a way to go about solving this that doesn't require the discrimination to just continue in a different way?
I think it's going to be hard because there's all, when you've been discriminated, you always go on the defensive, right? So I'm going to create this. And I can only speak for myself as an immigrant Latina woman. I can't speak for my African-American sisters or sisters from or brothers from another race and gender. But for me, I think also I take a different approach. And I guess it has to do with my relationship with God and how I envision myself sort of being a unifier, and not that I'm passive because it's what my parents taught me, but being passive and also being kind and non-judgmental and practicing what you're preaching. Because if I'm saying don't discriminate against me, but then I go and create my own little forum, I'm again, now I'm discriminating against that one person that I'm complaining is discriminating against me. But I think, everyone has a different walk, has a different path in their lives, different experiences. So I could not give my voice to what my sister who's an African-American in the legal field has experienced. For me to have an opinion, I just have an opinion as a Latina Christian woman who always try to see the best in other people, but I've also have not experienced some of the harsh difficulty things that my brothers and sisters from another race and gender have experienced.
Right. And I think if we look at the question from another perspective, I mean, let's say you're a firm owner, right? So if you were to have a position open, right? I'm assuming you're passionate about wanting to give people, females or Latinos, a fair shake and give them a spot, right? Now you have a perfectly good candidate who walks through the door who's a Jewish white male. Right?
Well, my associate is Jewish.
So how do you view that candidate when you're looking at them versus somebody who's a female Latino that's both of them are perfectly capable of doing the job, and you're hiring somebody, right? Chances are you're probably going to hire the female Latino, right? So
now, it's interesting because I always hire the underdog, and I don't hire skills, I hire personality. So that's where I start off with. So when you start off just looking for something different that's aside from experience and knowledge and, accolades, then all of that the being a woman, being a male, being a Latina, African-American, or white goes out the door, because I really focus on the personality, the questions that I ask. And, I have both of my attorneys. One of them is a female Jewish attorney, and I'm of Christian value, and I have Bible verses all over the place. And then I have a male attorney who's not a believer, right? So we have a combination of everything here. We have Latinas working here as well. So for me, it's really going after the heart and, after that person's character. So it's easier for me because I don't hire on the standards that most people will hire. And
I love that about you, because that's the way it should be. You should be hiring for personality. You should be hiring for fit within the values of the company way before you hire for skill, because skill can be attained, skill can be acquired. Now, clearly, if you're a software company and you need programmers, you're not going to hire somebody who's not a programmer. But and the same thing in the legal field. If you need an attorney, you're not going to hire somebody who's not an attorney. But at the same time, if you need somebody who's going to take care of a bunch of work in the office, they don't necessarily have to come and already be a paralegal, right? They can come and learn on the job of how to file papers and how to go through the process, how to answer the phone, how to deal with your clients, as long as they are motivated and in alignment with your core values, and they have the personality you want, whether it's serious or happy or bubbly or excited, whatever it is that you're looking for. That's way more important. So you definitely hit that right, and I'm sure that's part of your success, right? Is just choosing the right people.
My retention rate is extremely high. It's almost
awesome.
at 100%. But again, we have to be people lovers. We have to see the best in people, because we're constantly preaching unity and we want this to be a better world. But then, we focus too much on what's out there and not so much as what's in our control. So I try not to be blinded by the boxes that you must check off. I must have a Latina lawyer because I'm a Latina business owner. Like, I don't like to get caught up in that. Whoever comes on the team, it's a human being. And as long as they're aligned with, my vision and just treating people kindly, you don't need to be a Christian. You don't need to be a woman. You don't need to be a Latina. And, it's proven to work. I mean, you just need to be a good person, willing to work hard.
So tell me a little bit more about Girl Lawyer on a Mission. What is that?
Well, I have a soft spot for people that are in jail. The second reason why I didn't mention to you earlier why I became an attorney is because I had a very close family member go through the criminal justice system, and I saw the things that happened and how that person was derailed for a bad decision. So I have a heart for visiting inmates, doing the Bible studies, taking the word, and just showing that lawyers are human, and that we also care, and that we can be non-judgmental. So I did criminal defense in my first part of my career. And I think it's important that when you see your client, whether it's someone that killed someone, robbed someone, or allegedly did whatever they did, that you see them as a person first, and you show the goodness that could exist in this world without being judgmental. And I think that allows you to open up to have an opportunity and a relationship that's different, because the justice system will take care of justice itself, right? In the own way of whatever justice may mean for that victim or for that client. But my job is to be more of an advocate and just to be positive. So Girl Lawyer on a Mission is really going into the jail. I love to mentor young women in going into law school. And if I need to help financially or just give my time. So it's just really being on a mission to, offer the goodness that there is within us.
Now, are you recruiting other people and other attorneys to do that as well, and go into the jails and help you with this mission, or is it really just you out there hitting the pavement?
I found a back door. It's very difficult for you to get in and take Bibles and stuff. So you have to be connected to a church. But what I did was I signed up to be the pro bono attorneys, right? Mm-hmm. So as a pro bono attorney, it's like you have, you're exposed to all these clients that are desperately needing free legal advice. And already they think if you're free, you're not good. So now I'm coming in saying, no, I'm good. I'm a private lawyer giving you my time. And then just, working in your faith and encouragement. You have to be respectful of other people if they're not of your religion, but just sort of, just being kind and demonstrating that, there are some good humans, and I'm going to respect you for who you are. And I'm going to see you as a person as we go through this process. So I have one other friend that is into, taking the word in the jail, but, it's very political. So as of now, I just take it as a personal mission, anybody I meet, especially if they're in custody.
Mm-hmm. Now, the young women that you're helping to put through law school and stuff like that, are they incarcerated, or that's another piece of this mission?
Well, if I'm currently not doing just woman ministry, to be honest with you, I think that's eventually when my daughter becomes a lawyer, she has a couple more years, that's going to be my long-term goal, is to go into ministry. So I have to make all the money now, right?
Right.
But just
there's another belief that we can try to get rid of, which is, ministers don't make money, right? You can be in ministry and you can make money, and it's okay. And there's also ways that you can be in ministry that doesn't require you to be the pastor of a church, right? It can get like, you can be in ministry in many other ways, which you're already doing really with your mission with Girl Lawyer on a Mission. So I think you're already doing that. You're just not giving yourself the appropriate credit.
Well, thank you. I think we all have a ministry to a degree. We just, we don't call it what it is, but I think there's goodness in everyone.
Yeah. Okay, one other thing that you mentioned, that we mentioned in the intro, that I want to know more about, and that's this hashtag heels in the courtroom. What is that?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that is a combination of something that you mentioned, which is having a good heart, right? And then this prosperity thing. So that's my platform where I get to be very vocal with my faith, and also very encouraging, and telling women that you can do it too. So it's sort of a fun place where I mix, faith and law and entrepreneurship. So if anybody wants to follow me, it's just a fun platform that you could get a little bit of Jesus and some law in there.
Mm-hmm. And is it just everything that you're posting it has that hashtag, or is it what's your primary platform for that?
It's just Instagram. Yeah, it's something I started so it can be an extension of my faith, business, mm-hmm. and entrepreneurship. And I think there's a lot of women that are in ministry, a lot of women that are faith-based businesses that, like you say, you can have the ministry and you can have the income. And I wanted to sort of, go in there and be an example of running your business and still having the integrity and maintaining your faith and being successful at the same time, and not compromising, looking beautiful and being joyful and doing all the great things. And you can do all of that and still be a powerful woman in business.
What's interesting is that a true leader leads by example, right?
Yes.
And if you look at any situation where somebody says one thing, but their actions do something else, and all of a sudden everybody's doing the other thing, and you can see that more with in certain settings. Like for me, for example, I'm in a coaching organization, and I'm in a group, and everyone's looking to see what the coach is doing. Like what is he doing every day? How is he living his life? And they're just following that. Oh, he took this action, so we're going to do that too. And it's not like, oh, he's getting behind the microphone and saying, yo, you need to do this, right? Right. And so really what we've just established is that you are a true leader, because you're just out there doing all these things, right? You're on a mission, you know what you want, what you want to demonstrate, and you're just stepping fully into each of those roles. And I think that if we really think about it, like what dictates success, right? Success is completely defined by you. Right? No one else defines whether you're successful or not. I mean, they might, right? They might try to define it, but ultimately you get to decide what success looks like. Right. So really you have to figure out what is the version of you that you want to be, and start being that version. And if we just figured out how to not give in to society and pressures and outside stressors, and just live our best life,
be your authentic self.
What we end up doing is we end up becoming a leader, and leaders lead and others follow. And that's really where the power is. And that's what's going to get people into the right seats at the right tables, like you said at the beginning of this episode. So I love your personality, your enthusiasm, and it's just everything. It just comes out. Like, even people who are not watching us, right? They're just listening to this audio. They feel it, and they know that you're very passionate about what you do, and that really elevates you and puts you on that platform. And I'm not doing this to pat you on the back. I know you're saying thank you, right? But I'm doing it to demonstrate to the listeners that, look, part of the challenge that a lot of us have is that we are not living the way that we want to. And we're thinking like, oh, one day when I get to this point, and then I'll be able to live that way. One day when I get to this point, I'll be able to do that. And that day never comes.
Right. And, for me, I grew up poor. I mean, that's the bottom line. Right. And then to be where I am today, there's just no room for yesterday. I mean, there's no room for I'm going to wait. And what I'm teaching my daughters is do today as if it matters in 10 years. because everyone sees you being successful, charging this big money for, coaching people, and you're helping people make millions of dollars, but they don't understand the hard work that comes behind that. And it can take 10 years, but start today as if it matters in 10 years, right? Like everything we say, the way we speak, the people we become friends with, what we post on social media, it might be good today, but think how would that be in 10 years? Would it matter in 10 years? What would it say about me in 10 years? So it's a process. It's a project that we're sort of, going through, but life is so beautiful. And some of us can be able to see the big picture, and it takes hard work, and you have to be intentional. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out so I can be healthier and stronger and happier. Not everybody makes that choice, but we all have choices. It all starts with a choice.
Some of us work out at 10 in the morning.
Right. We all have the one thing we can control is our decisions and our choices. Right. So why don't we start with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Noemi, this is a fun and great conversation to have.
Yes,
we didn't talk about
we
didn't talk about your firm or your success at all. And I think that our listeners probably would love to have you back in the future to talk about that. You have 2 attorneys on staff. How did you do it? What's your secret to success? We definitely have to come back and talk about the business side of things. But this has just been a breath of fresh air having this conversation with you. I enjoyed my time immensely. It's too bad that it's as short as it is and it needs to come to an end. But as we wrap up, I like to leave you with 2 opportunities. One is share your number 1 best piece of advice to our attorney audience that's listening to this podcast. Number 2, if they want to get in touch with you, follow you, learn more about you, where would you like to direct them to go and check out your stuff or get in touch with you?
Well, number 1, they can follow me on Instagram, Hills in the Courtroom. That's where I'm the most active. And my 1 piece of advice is we all have something different. And there's someone out there that needs that difference. So let's go out and find that cheerleader. Let's go out and find that fan, because we all have something to bring to the table. And I think as women, we get caught up in the comparison and the different lanes. Let's create our own lanes. Let's be powerful, because there's someone out there that needs what we have. And the more that we stay away, shy away, and do not become public, we're robbing somebody else of a blessing that they're awaiting for. So that's my advice. Just go out there and be yourself.
I love it. I love it. And I just followed you, Heels in the Courtroom on Instagram. I just went and hit the follow button. So folks, do the same. Noemi, it's really been an honor to have you here on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing and just so openly with our audience. It's just been a wonderful conversation, and hopefully we'll have you back. Yes. For round 2 at some point in the future. Folks, if you love this episode and this is your first time tuning into the podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button in your podcast player so that you get notified every time we release a new episode. We're here twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday's usually a solo episode, me behind the microphone, just sharing whatever's on my mind at the time. And Thursday, we bring amazing guests to you, just like Noemi. And we have a ton of previous guests that you can binge on right now, well over 300 episodes of content here on the Profit with Law podcast. So make sure that you're subscribed to the show. And if you've been with us for a while and you're blown away by everything that we're doing here, especially the amazing guests that we're bringing, show us some love by clicking the rate and review, write a note so that somebody else who's checking the podcast out and saying, hey, should I give it a listen? They can read your little note and then say, oh, this person really found this helpful. I should go check it out myself. The same way that you want your clients to go out on Google and leave you a rating and review for your law firm, do that for us on the podcast. It really helps grow our listener base. Until next time, just stay true to yourself, as Noemi says. Be yourself and go out and win at this game, and not just serving your clients, but also making a profit at the same time. We'll catch you guys on Tuesday. Take care. Thank you for tuning into the Profit with Law podcast. Your feedback is extremely valuable to us, as well as helping us reach more people with this valuable content. Please leave us a rating and review in your favorite podcast directory. Join us again next time when we are back with even more strategies to profit with law.